as you can see, we have to actually look at closing the gap and defining actions on how to do that. So when we first started discussing the panel with Thomas, we were wondering what gap specifically are we talking about, because there is the gap between innovators, research and industry. We spoke about that before. There is the gap amongst innovators and healthcare systems, the gap between healthcare systems across Europe, the gap between investors and the rest. So there is a lot of gaps, and of course the gaps that we want to discuss and refer to between now and 2050, the future, because this is the aim for the LifeScience4EU conference that we're here today. So we want to start with a few questions. Again, have your phones ready because we will be asking you, so keep your eyes on the screen while listening to the panelists. But I want to start with Monica, following on from the previous panel, to talk about a little bit about the gaps that are lying when we're talking specifically about personalized medicine. So the gaps between, we talked about how that's the future. We know that's the future. You're involved in pan-European consortia, so you've got an overview of what's happening around Europe. But when we're talking about deploying these solutions into the healthcare system, there is a huge gap there. And how do you think, what actions should we take to cover them, or what actions are we taking at the moment that you're aware of that we do that to close that gap?
Thanks. Of course, I do it a little bit again from the European Partnership for Personalized Medicine perspective, so I excuse for that. So specifically around personalized medicine, but it applies for everything, I would say. So you have identified the gaps. I don't know if, no, they are not on the screen. So like the question of bridging research to the market, we have discussed it. I think research is there, but we have to support the researcher to bring research towards innovation and market. I think here, for example, the partnership, I have mentioned it before. And if you have questions, and during the pause, there's Kathleen Dont somewhere in the audience also. Maybe you can, I can see you, yeah. So if you have questions how, for example, we support the translation from research to innovation through the partnership with specific activities, I think it's a good moment to ask Kathleen, because it's work package 3 that is specifically supporting like venture creation, venture capital, fast track, and venture creation. And also we try to have trainings to support researchers to better understand how to take next steps. When it specifically comes to the question between innovation and health systems, I think here the biggest problem is the diversity in Europe, the diversity of healthcare systems, even in one country. So you go to Spain or to Italy, even from one region to the other, the healthcare system is differently managed. I think even with your prescription, you can go from one region to the other to take your medication. So I think really here this is a big complexity. As I said before, we might not be able to harmonize these, but I think we can try to work on this together in trying to, try to find common processes and try to, to create Europe as a market, to make people aware that Europe is not an individual small markets, but a big market, and to try to help companies to come back. And I have the feeling that, for example, every country has innovation agencies also that are really supportive in this. So for example, Business Finland or Vinnova for Sweden, I have the feeling there are some countries that are really pushing and supporting the innovators. I think what we need to do and to push, especially thinking internationally, for example, for Africa, where I have more contacts, or where I'm working with this country or continent I'm working a lot with, to stop reacting only on urgent issues. Innovation, they need sometimes time, so it is visions also for the future. Allowing innovation means to think about aspects like personalized medicine that are maybe not implemented tomorrow, but we have to make the baseline now, that in the future we know data are collected, that we are able to use them. So not only react on urgent problems, but to be ready for the future.
Yeah, but so not just reactive, but sort of be proactive as well, in a sense. Magdalena, when we're talking about a gap, before it was mentioned, or again and again, it's stressed how important timing is. And we have, in Europe, there is through Horizon, there is funding tools specifically designed to actually bridge the gap between academia and industry, especially, for example, the IC Accelerator, which gives a push to mid TRLs to go into higher TRLs. Is timing, obviously timing is of an essence. Are these the best tools, do you think? And should we, this is something that was raised from yesterday, should we not only focus on the TRLs, but actually focus on the readiness level for these technologies to be updated by the I should say, forgot my English, by the healthcare systems as well, so then we can have direct access to the patients?
Okay, so, well, the quick answer is that, first of all, yes, all the instruments which are needed to, to face these challenges already exist. That's not only my personal diagnosis of the situation, it's the diagnosis, the outcome of the conference we had in the beginning of this very week in Warsaw. It happens that as NCBR, we have organized a huge conference on Monday and Tuesday of this week in Warsaw, also as a Polish presidency event. Entitled EU Innovation Journey 25, Closing the Innovation Gap. So it's a nice circumstance that I can recall this conference here. More than 500 people from all the Europe gathered to discuss how to close the double gap. You have quoted many gaps, in fact. We insisted on this general double gap between US, China, and US, EU, US, China, and widening countries, old member states. And the outcomes of this debate will be published in the form of a report before this summer. So I encourage you to take a look when it will be available. We will certainly advertise it on our website as NCBR and as NCP. But what I can already reveal is that indeed the outcome was that there is a variety of opportunities set up, first of all, under Horizon Europe. But they are difficult to be noticed sometimes and understood as a system. You recalled EIC Accelerator, but of course there's not only EIC Accelerator, there is a number of different grants under the third pillar of Horizon Europe, and not only. But I would like to particularly draw your attention to the new instrument which has been just set up, and we will have the first pilot call of this instrument published in June. In just a few weeks' time. It is an instrument called Pre-Accelerator, which is perfectly in the logic of the third pillar. So Pathfinder, Accelerator, etc. It is called Pre-Accelerator. It will be implemented under the Widera, the widening portfolio. This instrument has been created in order to boost the innovation potential of early-stage deep tech startups in widening countries by enhancing their business, investor, and technology readiness. To secure funding from the EIC accelerator later on. It was designed for activities between TRL 4 and 6, because the 6 is the level of EIC accelerator. This is indeed an instrument which will close this gap. The funding under pre-accelerator it's gonna be between 300 and 500,000 euro. So quite something for a startup. I don't know if it answers your question.
No, I think that's
Not
it does answer my question, and it creates more questions. But before you continue, I want to go to, because you just told us of a fantastic opportunity of actually closing the gap in the TRLs, and then we have to bring in the money from private money. So I'm just putting a hold on what you had to say. So when it comes to Robert, I know that you're an innovator in AI, and we can talk about that later on, but you're heading an angel investor group or network. So you are the only one who here on this panel representing private money. So how do we continue then from these fantastic actions that we are having? So we helping research being translated to commercialization or to be into the market. We have instruments from the EU in order to support these TRLs to come out to the market, and then you come into play. So how do you, from your view, what actions do we need to close the gap in order to have these startups or SMEs go to the next level and become bigger?
Thank you very much. Yes, indeed. I admit I was VC.
Not anymore?
A bit, but I have to be fully focused on the startup. It has a really great mission and a lot of effort, of course, to make it reality, as usually. That's the name of the game. But from the investor perspective, I did this angel investing, but also VC. I think the most difficult thing is to understand the probability of win in this healthcare sector, because on one hand we all know that there are many needs. On the other hand, we know that it's extremely challenging, and regulations on top of it. Yeah. So of course it's good that we have some public funding. We try to stimulate and so on. But sometimes in this there is this business aspect missing, and when these projects develop to some level and go to the private investors, they don't see this business value, if this will be useful or not. And the second extremely important factor is the chances for the adoption. Yeah, because it's to design some new technology innovation. It's even get all the certification approvals is one thing, but then rolling this and getting the scale is extremely difficult. And of course, we are competing with Americans, Chinese. They have large markets and much easier adoption. So you have, as an investor, private investor, you have to be very careful if you invest in startup with really nice innovation in Europe, and this startup is developing in Europe. If the competitors from the other larger geographies or easier to scale will not, be much faster, more efficient than the European ones. Or you advise these startups to go, for example, in clean out, we consider going to maybe US, but also India seems to be a very interesting market for us. Large, massive adoption and less regulated. Yeah. So our investor says, why don't you go to India and skip Europe? Yeah.
If I may, Robert, we had a voice from the audience during the last session saying that in Europe, we probably already have the supply of good projects. It's like, let's assume that. But we don't have the demand from the market and also from the funds, from the VC funds and generally the financing market. So that they don't provide enough support to do the things that you mentioned. So to act quickly, to go to the market, to compete with American or Chinese competitors. How would you address that?
The speed is everything in this industry, yeah? Because as you see how this technology is developing, like, I don't know, OpenAI. 1 year ago, who have heard about ChatGPT? Today, probably majority of us is using this on a daily basis, yeah? So this is extremely important. It's one thing. And another one, we had some discussions here at the coffee break about this mechanism are created in, let's say in a safe way. Of course, public money has to be very carefully allocated and so on. But this means that it's extremely difficult to make some kind of crazy projects in Europe. But I think that in healthcare, in many areas, we have the potential, to jump, not to do incremental changes, but if something is really bad, interoperability of data, yeah? We have some discussion about maybe let it stay as it is and put a layer of AI agents, not for patient treatment, it's too risky today, but for some analysis, for getting real-world evidence. We have not the best data, let's say, for the real-world evidence anyway, so if we do it with AI agents, we will have probably slightly better and on massive scale. And maybe it would be worth to do something like that. But this public mechanism, they're designed in a way that it's too difficult to propose such a project today, especially if you want to engage many stakeholders. And if you are closer to the system change on a system level, and the risk appetite is low, because as a company, as a CEO of the company, I wouldn't submit the project for the grant, promising that I will deliver something with these agents, because I don't know what will be after, I don't know, 8-9 months of evaluation, signing contract, and another year of implementation. In hospital, it takes time. I don't know what will be the technology there and what I can really deliver. I know that it makes sense and I will deliver something, but it's extremely difficult to promise and sign the contract with that. So these crazy projects in Europe, very ambitious and very looking forward, are extremely difficult to finance.
So you say that European attitude, I wouldn't say even regulations, but the European approach doesn't leave you the room for the failure.
Yes, exactly.
Well, maybe this is one of the most important things that we could address. So Europe is going for always, or almost always, for the safe way. So we are not that courageous, not that bold. And I take your voice as an entrepreneur for more room for failure, for bigger risk appetite. I'm the CEO of the company that is also developing new technologies, actually cell and gene therapies. And if we could move fast, we can move faster, but we don't have money for that. And actually, it's the paradox. So European companies are too slow, so we can't give them money. And we don't give them money, and they are too slow because they don't have the fuel to run faster.
It's not about the money. I don't want to dominate the discussion, but I think that there is increasing paradox between what we discuss on the system level and the real life. For example, data privacy is a big topic discussed from many angles and so on. But the reality is, I have a doctor at home, and I talk with many doctors, that if you have a look at their emails and WhatsApps, what kind of medical documentation patients are sharing to get, some advice, second opinion, and this kind of stuff. I was shocked. Yeah. So this is happening. The same from recent publication from UK. 1/3 of the doctors they use ChatGPT. It's not approved. They shouldn't do, but they do use this in daily practice, diagnosis, treatment, and so on.
Even though it's 1 or 2 years old.
Yes, and ChatGPT knows a lot about health of Europeans, I guess.
So they are adapted quickly to the change.
So we better do something fast and do, let's say, first wave of regulation to, somehow balance. We have to do, to find the right balance between the speed of the innovation and the safety. But sometimes it's better to do this, step by step, because the nature of innovation is that if this is really good, bringing some result, it's adopted. In healthcare, of course, we prefer to have something approved and then used, but this is not the natural scheme how the innovation is being developed and used in daily life.
So we're moving really fast, and that means that we require people with new skills. So there is a lot of discussion about upskilling, reskilling in Europe across. We do know that we have a lot of talent when it comes to science. But Carolina, because you work with the biotech and the life sciences sector, and you know what are the profiles that the companies need. You probably have more knowledge of what the companies need from their companies themselves, I have a feeling. But where are we at? Is there a gap between the market needs and what we offer when it comes to capacity of the employees? Are we moving as fast in educating ourselves if we have to? Where are we at?
Yeah, so thank you for this question. So I've been dealing with biotech and medtech industry for the last 10 years. And I can tell you one thing. From the very beginning, I've heard that academia does not produce the graduates with the relevant skills. So I dug deeper, and I realized that it's not all about that. It's about the curricula that doesn't have right now the proper, let's say, adjustment to the company's need. And it's not about scientific skills, because you can do this during your, let's say, bachelor or master studies. I guess you're more proficient in several technical tools and scientific tools as well during your PhD studies. But it's also about, let's say, the understanding of the environment, understanding of the drug discovery and development processes, how long it takes, and what it's needed step by step. So to see, let's say, from the helicopter perspective on what you are doing on a daily basis and why you are doing this in your laboratory. The next thing I observe from the last decade is still regulatory, which is more complex after implementing, for example, MDR regulations for medical devices. When this regulation was introduced by the European Union, trust me, every med tech company was afraid of this, and the products stuck for 1 or 2 years. Why? Because the certification companies had a lot of contracts from the medtech companies who needed to be certified once more. So it makes, sometimes frustrating to observe that we have really excellent companies, excellent academias as well, and something is wrong here. And but not just being so frustrated, I see also a lot of positive things, like thanks to different European programs, mobility programs, Erasmus, etc., Marie Curie, young scientists have excellent perspective to see the different research centers across Europe. And it makes them really valuable for the companies and for the other research centers. They do not have to leave Europe to do great science. Of course, US is always tempting. But if we care a little bit more about the infrastructure here, about scientific challenges, supporting VC systems, ecosystem, and so on. So I believe that there is a huge, it's not a huge potential, it's a future for us. We need to do something with it.
Great.
I can tell you a lot of stories.
A lot of stories. You will tell us a lot of story, but now with the narrative of choosing Europe, and now we're actively, as Europe, attracting or wanting to bring back good talent that potentially has left. How is that, this is a question to all of you, how is that, are we ready to incorporate this new talent, and how do you think this is actually going to help us close the gap that we're talking in all aspects of life sciences? Anyone can start. I'm throwing it out to you, and I'm throwing it out to the audience after as well.
Yeah, so maybe I will start. As a company and myself, we have lots of experience with relocation. So we relocate scientists all the time, not only from Europe but also from the US. And I've heard 2 or 3 days ago that European Union has a plan, and we should implement the programs to attract US-based scientists. We've done this for the last 10 years. We don't need big, let's say, big words. It's just all about the employer value proposition. What kind of infrastructure do you have in your company or research center? Does the research center speak English? And their administrative speak English? Does, let's say, the organization have in place other incentives like relocation support, which is needed? You need to rent an apartment. You need to know how to navigate in a new city, in a new country. You need to have all this information in place before you make a decision about moving. So, we collaborate with different organizations and research centers. So we needed to make this step by step, and we succeeded. It's not all about big words, but dirty work.
And credits to you. I will make it a very sharp answer. Probably extremely difficult in Europe, but let's hope President Trump will help us a bit with that.
Yes, I would echo to what Karolina has just said, because as NCP organization, we organize every year, except for this year, which is a presidential one, a Horizon Europe Managers Academy. It became already a cycle, and it is a training cycle during a couple of weeks or even months. Every autumn, and there in this framework, I always have a presentation about building the recognition of a research institution in this highly competitive world. Of course, in order to build consortia, etc. And one thing that I always repeat is to advertise our institution appropriately on its website. It is such a trivial thing, which is very rarely well done. Usually you can find on such a website a lot of information. Of course, I'm talking about the Polish cases. A lot of information about the history of DAN institution. You know, some eminent professors who died 100 years ago. But there is still not enough about the recent grants that have been gained from international programs or research teams, international teams that actually work in this institution. So sometimes such trivial details determine, you know, the whole feedback that we receive from such a website. What I can add to that. Is that, you know, mobility issues are a part of Horizon Europe. There is a huge portfolio under Maria Skłodowska-Curie Actions only devoted to mobility grants. And it's not anymore in my competencies. It has been transferred to National Agency for Academic Exchange in Poland. It is the only part of Horizon which is not in my organization. But still, you know that under this action, Choose Europe, two big instruments has been implemented under Horizon. First is a new instrument under Maria Skłodowska-Curie. And the second one is a very expensive type of funding under ERC grants too. It is very well known already because Ursula von der Leyen talked a lot about this one. Some very concrete new instruments are being set up in order to gain these foreign researchers and bring them to Europe. Of course, it's not very easy to do it in practice. In NAVA, together with these NCPs for Maria Skłodowska-Curie Actions, there are also people who deal with Euraccess Poland. Euraccess, I don't know if you know, this is pan-European network of agencies which assist researchers to settle down in a chosen country. And of course, I know these people very well, and there is a number of anecdotes, what they do, what they have to do to really assist these people to overcome incredible barriers. Of course, their supposed task is to just, you know, explain, advise, provide with some information. But the real task is very often to go to some institutions, you know, to be a translator, a person who really fills in the forms. It's a huge challenge, in fact.
I think we've got an elephant in the room. So what I mean, that there are several factors that could drive scientists and staff back from the other countries. But I think that we lack the one factor that probably has the most value and it's money. What do you think? So is it like the Chinese gave their scientists so much money to, like they doubled or tripled the pay in the US? The US did the brain drain, and right now we are talking about helping somebody to overcome barriers, to relocate, to get around the city, and we are not talking about the money.
Yeah, in fact, these were the two words I was writing down for how to bring them back is potentially funding. But the question is at what moment? So I think funding, I don't know when it was said, it's the speed up. The problem, I think you said it, the problem it takes time sometimes. You submit a proposal and then a year after you start and then maybe not because you need approvals.
Technology had changed.
Yeah, so I think the problem is the mini project funding. So when I was talking to innovators, they say what you see now is not what you have funded. It is a long time of funding sequence, and you see the result of many projects. So I think what I really feel is missing is constant funding or continuous funding. What I feel as a funding organization is quite different because we are asked to make open competition, and we are seldom selecting one project and accompany it from the start until the end. So this is something where we, I think, have to really work on and what could help, but also I think listen more to those that are innovators, to understand what is really the need. So to have more co-creation processes, looking what we can really install afterwards, but at least listen and try to understand what are the needs, not to create an environment and then it's maybe not really what is needed. And I heard a lot, Emma is not here anymore, I think, but I didn't have the feeling, for example, that there was a problem of not wanting regulations that are existing, not understanding the needs of regulation, but having the openness also to listen to new things coming up, new innovation. And the regulation is not so fixed as we think. Also here is the funding, but also having the possibility to co-create regulation. And I think this is a changing, I have the feeling it's changing currently. And I have an example from Australia where where there is a diagnostic company and they developed, it's public-private, it's very interesting already how they are developed. So they are public funded, but they are private, so it's more accessible, but they have nevertheless the standards that are needed. So it's even how innovation looks like. And then they worked with the regulation together to make a clinical trial that would have been in such a way not possible before. But they explained, we go to somewhere where we don't know exactly how it's looking, what the patient is getting, but they developed it together with them. So I think having also, this is why I say funding and co-creation, I think these are two aspects that are really helping.
I got excited there because you said Australia, so I thought you would talk about my home country, but obviously it was just Austria, so it doesn't matter. But can I say, because we're talking about actions, and this is a session about actions, and I want to give an example as part of I'm splitting my time between CBER, so obviously a network of networks of clusters across Europe, and my other half role is a cluster manager in Greece. And an example of closing the gap in Greece, probably, I don't know how many of you know, but Greece has traditionally a big pharma industry. We've got a big pharmaceutical industry, mainly generics, but expanding, and a lot of production, a lot of money, a lot of talent into that. And one of a good action that has worked for the innovation in Greece is that the state has given incentives to big pharma to reinvest, I should say, some of the money that they get back from clawback from the products that are in the market into new innovation. And that has actually pushed, in a way, big pharma putting their skills and the expertise into new, so it could be new biologics, it could be new therapies, it could be new production ways, but new ways, so creating a bit of a hype. Do you have any other of these concrete actions that we can actually discuss or present, and this is to the audience as well, when we're talking about closing the gap? So Carolina, you spoke about trying to help people closing the gap in order to relocate. We're talking about the need of funding. We're talking about the new instruments, but do you have any concrete examples to tell us? Because it is a sharing session here and we want to take it further. So all of you, I would like a comment from all of you and the audience.
Thank you for this. I was thinking about one particular example because you know what I am dreaming of? I am dreaming about having more innovative companies generally in Europe and more big pharma setting down here R&D centers. So how to do this? Just give incentive, as you said. It's, trust me, the simple way, or if not the simplest way, to attract big investments and to bring more highly paid jobs. It's one thing about attracting people. So giving them really interesting challenges and highly paid jobs.
May I have a dream? A bit in the direction of what you said, but I think that giving some space to the innovation or on healthcare system level would be something that could help solve some problems, and also would be a good signal for innovators that things are possible. And there is a hope, European health data space, because we're talking a lot about R&D, clinical trials, AI, and so on. Data is a fundamental thing for that. Not only sharing the data, but also taking care about the quality, what was discussed before. But it's great that we have this European law, but there is many doubts, many question marks about the local implementation, and also from pharma, if this will be useful, shall we engage or not. So my dream would be to have at least one sandbox project with use cases in each country and few on European. So it's a big dream. I know more than 30 sandboxes. Maybe you can organize this in some other way, but this is a great chance for Europe, for the innovation, but also solving many problems that we have in the healthcare system. So if we can somehow do it and maybe allow also some of the very ambitious or maybe also crazy projects, that's what sandboxes are created for. I think this would be something that from my colleagues also from the other startups, maybe also investors, would be something very needed.
Yeah, and if I may, so I would hear a voice from the VC standpoint of view, because we are discussing closing the gap. And one of the ideas, which I think is brilliantly implemented, for example, in the UK, where you have a vibrant biotech ecosystems and clusters as well, so is to give VCs incentives in terms of, let's say, giving them lower taxes, because they take a lot of risk to develop and invest the companies, especially in the early stages. So this is one of the idea which is already implemented elsewhere, right? So
it's also implemented in Poland for angel investors, also for VCs. But it's not as strong as everybody expected. Because you pay taxes
so we have
after you have success. But you have to spend money up front, yeah. So this is something that is, of course, devil in the details. But I think that the more chances for the success of the project of the startup, this is the major factor if we can build and grow adoption of startups in Europe, yeah. This would be the main motivation for investors.
Mm-hmm. Monica, Magda, any concrete actions that you have seen in your practice or of closing the gap, or that you can think of that we can implement?
If I take it from the national perspective, I I think it is really it was said before, but what I see in France is the creation of clusters, so bringing public-private clinic together, so research, the clinic, and the private sector. So there are different clusters developed around universities, for example, bringing the industry and biotech there, so startups helping the universities, or the universities are helping their researchers to have a more innovation setting. So I think this is really changing something. And then from the policy side, in France, what happened, for example, or what was, I think, like a year, in vitro diagnostics the testing is supported from the French ministry. So there is specific support given to new in vitro diagnostics. So this is, I think, sometimes a gap where there's no funding, where we get stuck, and sometimes just to test the tool. And I think here's really something where innovation is not getting blocked somewhere, but really tested in setting, and then we have the incentives, and then it's going to the next stage. So I really feel that helped.
If I may add, this is also, this is not financial, but this is also extremely difficult for startups. If you want to bring a big change, you need to have all the important stakeholders at the table. And for a small company like we have proposed this pan-European data framework with AI for clinical trials. And our experience is that even facilitating all the discussions between different partners, like big organizations, big pharma, the regulators, the hospitals, and so on, it's so time and resource consuming that for us it was extremely difficult to make this. So bottom up is slow, top down, very difficult for us.
So you are bringing, all of you are bringing a very important topics. And there is one gap that emerges from our discussions that was not named at the beginning. And I would say that this is a gap between planning and taking actions. So this is probably one of the biggest gap that we have in Europe. And we had the voting on the Mentimentor, and there was several proposals for most important factors that could bring us the best possible version of Europe in the future. And the answer that was most popular, the one that was biggest on the screen, was a speed of action. Do you agree to that? Magda was also trying to say something. I interrupted, sorry.
I was preparing for answering another question, in fact. And my answer would be then an invitation, because if the easiest way, in fact, to try to close the innovation gap is to come to NCBR, NCP, and because we exist in order to advise you, and we are there to help to build a research career, of course, via Horizon Europe grants, or to advise you on the life cycle of an idea, of course, also basing on Horizon Europe grants. Yeah, you can do it in many different ways. You can call us, you can write to us, we can meet on site, and we really will assist you in building your strategy. And if the question is now about the timing, well, it's another thing. It's we can't do anything about this. We can only we can speed up some processes by good assisting in your endeavors, but well, I don't think, let's say so, that all the barriers can be overcome. I mean, there are some factors that are really, that we can do nothing
that we can't do anything about it, you think? Are there any questions from the audience? Casimir is telling us that we should stop. Oh, continue but faster because timing. Okay, so we're speeding. There is a question up there. So yes. Oh, okay. So we have to do it really, really quickly now. Anton, you've got a comment. I'm coming all the way to you.
Sorry, it's a shameless sales pitch because you asked earlier if there are actions that are trying to close the gap, and I'd like to pitch the Remedy for All project, which is a value chain for repurposing. The European Commission a couple of years ago recognized that repurposing of medicines, so a medicine used in one disease already, trying and testing in a new disease, which is very useful, particularly for the rare disease community, because there are very few therapeutic options. They recognize that there's a lot of activity, huge funding going into repurposing, but very little getting there. So there is the real gap. And so they put out a call to create a complete value chain. And so we've managed to build a value chain. It's not only the development value chain, but it's also the research funders and the policymakers all working together. So we have a group of more than 50 international research funders looking at how can we fund repurposing better? How can we fund repurposing longitudinally so that we say, well, this is interesting. If you fund that first bit, we'll take that second bit. Because what it's doing is it's helping the community understand what the challenges are in repurposing specifically. It's helping the academics who are coming to us, of which we had 190 projects come and ask us for help in the last year, understand what challenges they will face further downstream. So it's bringing everybody around a subject and helping make that seamless transition from phase to phase. So none of the fire and forget funding, but really fund and follow, and really looking from here to the patient and trying to go step by step. We need to work more closely together, both the research funder and the grants that they're funding, less transactional, more committed together.
Excellent example. There is another one over there. I'll come around. Sorry, Casimir, we've got another question.
Thank you so much. That's a good exercise. Thank you very much for the discussion. Really interesting. So we often pointing to the Commission and the Brussels-based authorities for maybe speeding up, doing things better, more effective, etc. But often, actually, at the member states level, things are slowed down, having different opinion, one have to say, focusing on their sort of interest. So what do you think you could do at the member states level, for example, in Poland or somewhere else, to make it stronger?
Excellent question. There is a comment on this. I should have worn my running shoes.
Andrzej Pawluczuk. I think there is also one gap in senior directors with good networks with investors and with other key importance person in this sector. I mean, let's say the founders, let's say they have even 20, 30, 40, but sometimes senior director with 30 years with good relation in investors, key leaders, hospitals, directors, etc. So I think this is also quite important gap when, for example, I compare the other companies in other sector, for example, Google.
Absolutely agree.
This is the HR gap. I think that we gathered very essential information during this session, and we will, of course, include it after the conference in the report. I think that we should thank our panelists for the great discussion and also to the audience for participating.